official acts taken as president. That's coming from Judge John Roberts. Let's talk now about that. We're to Professor Joshua Kastenberg at the University of New Mexico School of Law. Joshua, thank you for joining us. And your reaction, first of all, to that initial statement we've had from the judge there. The nature of presidential power entitles a former president to absolute immunity.
Well, thank you for having me on. My reaction to that lead statement is that this court has, in the ruling, has barely advanced past Lord Camden's ruling that the king is not above the law, but they didn't define what the law was in this case. And so what we're left with is, what is an official presidential act? Is that something the prosecution would have to prove on a case-by-case basis, or will there be some bright line that the judiciary will later agree on? And we just don't know. But looking back on American history, one could say that Richard Nixon's ordering the bombing of Cambodia was an official act. And yet Congress specifically said you can't do that. So we're left with as many questions as we had before.
Yeah, and Joshua, as we said, starting to get further detail here and further responses to what may or may not be defined as official or unofficial acts. Talking there, the Supreme Court saying he is entitled to at least presumptive immunity from prosecution for all his official acts. There is no immunity for unofficial acts. And as you just touched on, that will now be the crux of this, how one defines what are official and unofficial.
Well, look, it's very clear to me that an official act occurs when the president is following the law as set forth by Congress, or following executive orders that either the sitting president or a prior president has set. But what's not clear to me, because presidents have, ever since Harry Truman, and with increasing regularity, said, well, this law doesn't apply to me and that law doesn't apply to me. And so there's a lot of gray area as to what would constitute an official act or not. An official act clearly is the use of the military to defend the country, or the use of presidential prerogative to stabilize the economy, or something along those lines. But is fundraising an official act? Is making speeches on the campaign trail and whipping up a crowd an official act? These are areas that either the juries or the judges are going to have to decide in the future, because the court simply didn't do it here.
Yes, and therefore explain to me the process for how that will be determined.
Well, I think that there's two different avenues, and they'll both have to occur. One is the prosecution will have to make their case to the U.S. District Court judge at the trial level that they're proving something is not an official act and therefore prosecutable. And then the judge will agree or not, but it'll go to the jury. And then the courts of appeal will decide something they normally don't like to decide. And that is a political question as to, is this an official act or not?
And I wonder, too, that voters will be looking at this and saying, look, you can hold the biggest office in the land, in the world, and actually if you do something that's illegal, but you have immunity. Where is the check and balance on power in this system?
Well, I think with the justices on the Supreme Court, particularly the 6 conservatives, will say, well, it's up to Congress to decide. And this is not the only issue where the majority in the past has done that. But they'll say it's a political question, and it goes to the Congress and it goes to the voters, but it stays out of the courts.
It's good to have you with us. Thank you. There's a lot more for us to talk about, but grateful for you being with us. That's Joshua Kastenberg there, joining us from New Mexico.